Hey friends, this is Joseph Maynor. What I want to do in this video is I want to talk about basically what my next series of videos are going to be on. And this is going to be so this is going to be probably most of this year. And so I'm going to be basically sharing with you guys my entire life coaching system. For those of you guys who don't know, I actually am a life coach and I'm currently life coaching three people. And if you're interested in life coaching, look at my YouTube About section and you can contact me there. But notwithstanding that, I'm going to share everything. And this is ultimately just going to be self help. See, there's a difference between self help and life coaching. Life coaching is where you want somebody to work with you. So for example, anybody can do self help. That's why it's called self help, right? But life coaching is when you have somebody who's guiding you, right? Who's working with you like an accountability partner, working with you, like kind of hand holding you through it. So if you feel like you can do it yourself, by all means, that's why I'm giving away all this stuff for free. For two reasons. That's the first reason. The second reason is because I'm actually doing the work myself. Nobody gets out of doing this, right? I mean, it's ultimately just creating, but I want to direct this to those of you guys who are kind of my spiritual enlightenment peers. Don't be afraid of self-help. Self-help or personal development is just another way of creating. And everybody needs to be grounded in the sense that they need finances, right, to be able to survive. They need relationships and they need health. And unless you're strong in these already, right, these are wonderful areas to create in. So there's no hard duality between spiritual enlightenment work and self-help work. Usually, though, when you're focused on one, you're not focused on the other. So if you look at my videos, pretty much for the last year, I've been focused almost entirely on what I call Module 2 in my system, which is awakening. And so basically there's Module 2 has two parts to it. You can see this if you look at my About section on my YouTube channel. There's Awakening 1 and Awakening 2. Awakening 1 is a focus on truth, and Awakening 2 is a focus on love, beauty, and wisdom. Right? So I've basically been focused on these now. You can see it, all my videos basically been focusing on this. But what we want to do, and you don't have to have spiritual enlightenment first to work on self-help, but when you do, it's called manifesting or manifestation. So it's really cool, like when you're super advanced in Module 2 and you go back to Module 1. Module 1 is broken up into two categories as well in my system. So the first part of Module 1 is practical self-help and accountability. The second part of Module 1 is alignment and growth. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to go through these kind of as an outline so that you guys can see what to expect in my videos. So basically, this is going to basically show you how to do self-help. Because I've been working on this stuff for like 11 years. I've read lots of the classic books and all this kind of stuff. And the reality is, I have my own systems at this point. And I want to share those with you. But ultimately, what you're going to need to do is you're going to need to create your own enhancements to your own pre-existing palette for creation. So this is where I differ, see, from a lot of teachers. A lot of teachers assume you know nothing, you can't do anything, and I'm going to teach everything to you, like spoon feed it to you. Well, no, that's not how it works. It's more like learning language. So for example, you already know how to speak. You don't learn language by somebody spoon feeding you grammar and then spoon feeding you the rules of grammar and that's not how anybody learns anything. Right? Well, I mean, I take that back. That's how people learn, for example, mathematics. But that's not how you learn verbal language at all, right? The reality is you already know how to communicate, and all you're learning how to do is make refinements to your bag of tricks or the palette that you have for creating. So think of self-help that way. So think of it more like I'm a guitar player and you're a guitar player. And I'm going to show you my bag of tricks as a guitar player, but you have your bag of tricks as a guitar player. And ultimately, the only use for me to you is that if you see something that inspires you to improve your bag of tricks or your palette as a guitar player. So you're already doing self-help. You're already doing life coaching. Everybody is. The difference between me and you is I've taken a gigantic deep dive into these things, which actually is kind of funny because the amount of stuff that I've studied and learned, it has and it hasn't changed my bag of tricks. I've developed my own models, which I'm going to share with you. And the models that I keep around are the models that I use. So, for example, over the past 10 years, I've been exposed to so much communication regarding this work, from the most grounded level to the most head in the clouds level. And a lot of it is like come and gone. A lot of it has been emptied, in other words. And a lot of it I still loop on. The stuff that I still loop on is my bag of tricks. That's the stuff that sticks around. The stuff that I keep coming back to and going, oh yeah, that was good. That inspires me to create. And so I've been doing this long enough to have some of those. And that's what I want to share with you. I don't want to share recent insights into any of this stuff. I want to share the stuff that I actually have used and continue to use to do self-help work. Now, we've gone through the spiritual enlightenment stuff, but now we're going to go back and we're going to do self-help, but we're not going to do it in this kind of Tony Robbins way, no, that's not how you want to do self-help. You want to do self-help from a perspective that you're already doing it. The only difference is getting inspired to create differently, right? It's like already being able to play a 12-bar blues and improvise over a 12-bar blues, but now you want to learn how to play through the changes in a tune, right? You want to be able to play through a chord progression where you're actually playing the right notes and playing phrases that work. So it's an enhancement to what you're already doing. And don't also, and I'm not trying to sell anything in this video, but don't underestimate the value of hiring a life coach either. The reason being is acceleration of progress. So if you have a life coach who you're working with, it's not just you doing it yourself. It's somebody calling you and saying, how are things going, right? Somebody who helps keep you accountable. Somebody who pushes you, right, to kind of milking, right? Like, what do you want? But doing it in a way where it's not like forceful either. And doing it in a way that doesn't waste your time or your money. So for example, the first thing you'll see in my description of my channel is called Creating from the Core. So those of you guys who've been following my videos, you know that the middle way for me is conscious creation and humor, right? Those are the two kind of pillars for the middle way. And humor being falling more on the feminine grounded side, and conscious creation falling on the more understanding masculine side. But the bottom line is my mentality is that you're already a creator. And so, but what we want to do basically more or less is just become becoming a more refined creator from what you're already doing. It's like the difference between being able to make macaroni and cheese and rice to being able to cook steak or to cook a full roast dinner or something like that. It's just a refinement. You're already cooking. You already know how to make a hard boiled egg. Now the question is, can we teach you how to make an omelet, right? So basically, the first element of practical self-help and accountability is what I call a clarity jumpstart session. Now, this is a 90-minute session that I offer. But 90 minutes, in 90 minutes, I'm only going to be able to give you the kernel for clarity, right? I'm going to give you the tools and the starting point to be able to work on clarity, because this is a very deep subject. You're not going to find clarity in 90 minutes. That's why it's called a clarity jumpstart session. I'm going to give you the tools to be able to work on clarity the way that I worked on it. And clarity is really deep. You're going to have to do a lot of things to really get clear. There's a lot of organization involved, and there's a lot of work involved. But because your efforts and your inspiration are limited, you have to be very clear about what you should be working on first and why. And you want to be like coming at it from a place of like passionate inspiration, not from a place of whipping yourself or feeling like, oh, this sucks. No. Nobody plays good guitar hating playing guitar, right? The reason why they play good guitar is because they're passionate about playing guitar. That's what they want to do. That's what their habits are already aligning to. So the first element of practical self-help and accountability is the clarity jumpstart, right? But realize that session is only aligned to give you to share with you what I used and continue to use to achieve clarity and to maintain clarity. And basically the bulk of my sessions are health, finances, and relationships. Now, these are the lower three, or the grounding areas for life coaching: health, relationships, finances. And actually you can think of these as three things, but there's some interlap between these. And so I have a session, basically hour-long sessions, where I can work with you on this, or you can work with yourself on this, because I'm going to give you everything anyway. But I'm just breaking it down this way because it makes sense. And it actually structures how I'm going to make these videos as well. The third thing is a weekly or bi-weekly accountability partner. This one is actually my most useful life coaching service. It's one thing to talk about what we want to do, make all kinds of notes and create binders and be organized. But if you're not going to take any action, then it's not going to matter, right? I mean, it's still good to have intention even if you don't take action. But, it's like, what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, okay, I want to learn how to play guitar. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read a bunch of theory books, thinking that the theory is going to turn me into a better guitar player, instead of actually practicing like 2 hours a day. Because you're going to realize that a lot of that theory, what you're learning in that theory, you're never going to put into your practice. It's never going to actually become integrated into your bag of tricks, because you're already a guitar player. What you want is what are some refinements I can make as a guitar player? So any of these books or communications or resources that you're consuming should only be thought of that way. So we have that turned around because of our focus on education. In fact, I'll take a break, and when I come back, I'll read something that I wrote about that no, it's the other way around. You got to already think of yourself as a creator and work on whatever art form that you're creating in. So if it's self-help, well, you got to do self-help, right? You can't just sit and consume YouTube videos thinking that you're doing self-help. No, it's like you're you're already doing self-help as a practitioner. So everything that you're consuming, think about it like, how does this actually change my creation? What you're going to find is most of it doesn't, right? And that's not a bug, that's a feature. But we have that flipped around, like, and I think part of it is because we think that we need knowledge before we can take action, instead of realizing, no, you're already taking action. You know what it's like? It's like, okay, you already speak, right? It's like thinking, I got to learn grammar to become a better communicator. Well, it's like yes and no. I mean, a lot of communication has nothing to do with words. There's a lot of body language involved. I mean, babies can communicate and they don't even know words. So, dogs, cats, we communicate with these beings all the time, and they don't know anything about grammar. But it's like, oh no, I got to learn the rules of this before I can do that. No, right? It's ass backwards. The reason why you learn grammar, let's say you're a communicator, especially a writer, the reason why you would learn grammar ultimately is to improve your writing. You're already writing. So you're not learning grammar to learn language. You already create with language, and you're using grammar to make refinements to your writing if you're a writer. See, that's the way to think about it. Friends, I'm going to take a break. I'll come back and we'll do part 2. Just give me 1 second. Hey friends, welcome back. So for those of you who can't see my About section on my YouTube page, this is basically what I'm working off of. Hopefully this can be seen. It's just basically an outline of my life coaching services, but also this is the way that I'm going to structure all of my videos too, because I'm going to give all this stuff away for free, but I can't give coaching away for free, obviously. I mean, it's like the difference between watching YouTube videos on learning how to play guitar versus working with a guitar teacher, right? That's basically what like a guitar teacher is going to give you an assignment, and then you got to come back and you got to show that the teacher that you learned, and you're meeting with that teacher every week. So that's the difference between life coaching and just consuming self-help content. But I want to give the theory away for free. So for module 1, the second part of it is alignment and growth. And this is basically your life purpose, career change, and entrepreneurship coaching. See, once you find your life purpose, you already have a job, right? Or you're in school. So nothing is going to change there. You're going to work the rest of your life chasing a dollar, right? I mean, unless you're rich or something like that. But even then, that money is coming from somewhere, right? I mean, and you're going to be creating anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Like, don't make it seem like chasing money is somehow beneath you. But there's something to be said for alignment. So in other words, like if you missed your calling, it's never too late, right? So for example, I kind of missed my calling to be a music producer. I'm not going to be one, but like if I had to do it all over again, if I had to do college all over again, I probably would have became like a music producer, music engineer. But ultimately, personal development is my number one value. So maybe that wouldn't necessarily, that's more aligned with like my eros or my passion. But my mind is more aligned with personal development. So really, personal development is my number one value. So what you do is once you figure out like your personality type, your top 3 values, your life purpose, maybe your Enneagram, some other kind of personality theory stuff which you can learn about yourself, your love languages, your hate languages, right? You can definitely get a much deeper understanding of your personality from a finite perspective. And once you do that, you can realign your career and you can actually start your own business. I have my own business. Now, as a life coach, I'm also aligned with my life purpose in terms of having like a side gig. But ultimately, you want your career life purpose to be your primary way of bringing in money. And this is going to be a work in process, a work in progress for all of us. You're going to do this for the rest of your life. And so this is a kind of an alignment area of life coaching or self-help work. Then there's adult development work and self-leadership coaching. So adult development work is about, if you guys have ever heard of like spiral dynamics, it's basically growth and maturity. But it's beyond spiral dynamics. I mean, it's just how can I become more mature? How can I grow? Self-leadership is how do I take control of the wheel of the ship, so to speak, but not be a dick about it, right? Because you're going to have to work with all kinds of systems. So you have to both be in charge and also ride the wave, right? You know, whatever, you're not going to, a good metaphor for this would be like a rip current. There's, when you're stuck in a rip current, the worst thing you can do is like turn around and fight the rip tide. Like you want to swim perpendicular to the rip tide, and then the waves will naturally push you back to shore. So yeah, like self-leadership is important, but you don't want to be the person who's like swimming against the rip tide because you're going to die. So it's a paradox. You have to both be in control of the steering wheel on the ship, but also the waves are going to do what they want to do with you too. So it's a working with, really, between you controlling the ship and the ship being controlled by the whole or the environment. But there's definitely a lot of work you can do in the self-leadership direction. So this is like, it gets into what you work on, what you prioritize, and what goals you have, and how you, what you prioritize in terms of relationships. So for example, health, finances, and relationships, even though we can break these up into like a triad, they're actually kind of interdependent. So in other words, if you suck at relationships, you're probably going to suck at finances too. Because where does finances come from? Finances come from relationships. Somebody has to want to pay you, right? If you suck at health, you're probably going to suck at relationships because you're not going to be coming from a place of abundance, right? If you're full of addictions, distractions, pain, you're going to be an asshole, right? So nobody's going to want to relate with you, and then that's going to affect your finances. If you have crappy finances, you're not going to be happy, which is going to affect your relationships and your health. So all three of these work together. All right, and then module 2, which I've been dealing with now for a year, it's spiritual enlightenment coaching. And there's going to be a lot of people going to recoil at that too. They're going to say, well, what do you mean by spiritual enlightenment coaching? Well, I'll tell you. So there's basically truth. And then there's the second one, awakening 2, is love, beauty, and wisdom. So nobody can directly transmit a spirituality to you, right? I mean, if you've made a career out of doing that, it makes sense that you would want to try to do that. And I think that there's more or less humble ways of trying to communicate this. I emphasize the humble way, right? Which is that I assume that you already have a spirituality. I'm not trying to change your spirituality. I don't care if you're a Christian, a Muslim, an atheist, a nothingness, just, whatever, who cares, right? It's none of my business, actually, what your spirituality is. But what I can offer you, which is not inconsistent with your spirituality, if you think of yourself as creating your spirituality. So you can think of me, it's like we're both guitar players. You have your own style of playing guitar, which is your spirituality. I have a unique way of playing guitar, which is my spirituality. And then I have my attempts to communicate some things to you that you might consider to put into your bag of tricks as a spiritual creator. I'm not trying to have you mind meld with me. That's impossible. It's like people come into Eddie Van Halen telling them, hey man, I want to play just like you. No, you don't. You can't. Eddie Van Halen plays the way he does because that's his style. That comes out of him. That came out of him. You could try to learn how to play like him. That's fine. That's copying him. The better move would be, how do I embody the spirit of Eddie Van Halen, where I find and refine my own sound as a guitar player? So you already have a spirituality. You just have to kind of uncover it. That's what I would guide you to do. And then what my spiritual enlightenment coaching sessions do is they expose you to spiritual enlightenment, specifically with regard to truth, and then later on, love, beauty, and wisdom. And basically, this is all the videos on my channel pretty much over the last year. So this content is pretty well already established. So I'm not going to really be spending... I still do have binders of stuff that I want to cover with regard to Module 2. But what you can see is characteristically lacking or missing on my channel is Module 1 content. Now, I have made prior videos on Module 1 stuff, but they're like not ready for prime time. I mean, believe it or not, my videos are not that great now. They were even worse before. There's videos, I probably have hundreds of videos that I would never publish on YouTube, right? So I've made videos on all this stuff already, but what I want to do is I want to come at it fresh again, and that's what we're going to do, probably for the rest of this year. And while we're doing it, we're basically doing Module 1, which is the more grounded self-help personal development work. We're going to be coming at it from a spiritual perspective. And we're going to be coming at it from a perspective that we're already, all of us are already doing this stuff. But what we want to do is we want to improve as self-help creators and practitioners. And yourself, you're your own life coach. So the best life coach for you is ultimately you. However, that said, it's always nice to work with somebody one-on-one. Now, the problem with working with somebody one-on-one is expectations from both the student and the teacher. The teacher has to understand that what the student really could benefit from the teacher is not like a direct mind meld thing. It's more like, how do you help the student make changes that will actually stick for them? Now, the student's expectation for the teacher should be like, the teacher is not going to do your push-ups for you, right? Ever. So you have to, as a student, right? You have to have some expectations of what the teacher can and can't give you. And the teacher has to understand, like, you have to be aligned with what the student wants to learn and wants to actually do. Otherwise, you're going to be teaching stuff to the student that's either going to be shooting over their heads or under their heads. As a student, you have to like not surrender your primary responsibility of being your own life coach and realizing that you're already a creator and taking responsibility for actually doing the work and developing accountability and putting in the practice time, because that's ultimately what's going to make you improve as a personal development practitioner. Okay, friends? Hopefully this is a good video, and I look forward to making this content. And those of you who do want to work with me one-on-one, feel free to contact me. My email address is josephlifecoach@yahoo.com. Okay, friends, I'll talk to you in a week. Take care.